Hi everyone, this is Jeffrey Ong. Today I'm going to talk about Beginner's Guide to Property Investing. Recently, I've published a book together with Dr. Wealth about the Beginner's Guide to Property Investing when I talk about B4R strategy. That's right, B stands for buy. The 4R stands for refurbishment, rent, and remortgage or refinance to extract your equity. Finally, recycle your money to buy the next one. So, if you are a newbie, what do? There are several steps to this. First is to choose a country. Well, wherever you live, you should buy your own home in your own country first. You want the security of having your own home and not be at the mercy of your landlords. Well, I rent my house at times because I like a change of environment, or I want to shift to a place where it is very near to my kids' school. And maybe that area is not suitable for ownership because the prices are sky high, so I just rent it. That is called rent investing. But in general, most people prefer to own their own home. Number two, you need to buy a second home for rental. Otherwise, you're going to live on your own home for capital gains, and there is no rental income. You can't retire because there's nothing to sell. You have only got one house. Actually, your first house is always it's not called an investment. It's actually a liability, according to Robert Kiyosaki, because it doesn't generate any cash flow. Until the day you die, you still need a place to stay unless you liquidate, take out the capital gains, the proceeds, and then rent, right? So you need a second home for rental. It could be in your own country, it could be another country. And if you choose another country, we have the ability to help you if it is in UK. Now, number three, get a mortgage appraisal. Before you do anything, before you buy your second home or your first home, get a mortgage appraisal. Find out how much you can borrow. Then that sets your budget. There's no point looking at a $3 million house when you can only afford to borrow $500,000. There's so much money to put in down payment, right? So get a mortgage appraisal, how much you can borrow. Number four, gauge the rent. If you are investing, understand that area. If it's Property Guru in Singapore, or iProperty in Malaysia, or Zillow in the US, or Zoopla or Rightmove in the UK, you need to know the comparables in that vicinity, that postcode, that 1/4 mile radius. What is the rent likely to be? And that is a gross rent. Don't just look at the gross rent. You must minus off all potential costs, such as agent fees to manage your properties. If you're covering utilities, assume there's 5% vacancy rate, assume there's 5% of annual rent on the maintenance. Now, at the end of it, you get the net rent. The net rent must preferably cover your mortgage repayments. Why is that so important? Well, if your mortgage repayments on a monthly basis is more than your rent, the more homes that you buy, the worse it gets. And before long, when you own your third property, you're in a black hole every month. So it's not sustainable. You want multiple properties for retirement. In fact, my course is talking about 10 properties in 10 years. You need 10 properties in the first 10 years. After that, the next 10 years, you can sell off some of the properties, or you stop remortgaging or refinancing and let the capital gains grow, and that's where your cash flow build up. And that's where you get rich. Before you retire, you might want to sell down some homes and then pay off the loans of the existing homes that you choose to keep so that it becomes unencumbered. It depends on your strategy. It depends on taxes as well. Well, some countries have a lot of inheritance tax, so it doesn't make sense to be unencumbered. You continue to borrow. Some countries allow you to draw an income, and there's very little income tax. So it depends. It could be in dividends, it could be in rental income. Population must be increasing. I've heard a lot of people talk about Japan, especially in Asia. Well, is the population growing? Take, for example, Osaka. It used to be a 17 million population let's say 50 years ago, and today it's only about 9 million. It's been declining by 0.24% per year in population. There's a lot of abandoned homes in Japan because it's a growing population. So it is very challenging to make money in a declining population, and there lies that issue. So I prefer to buy in a country where the population is at least growing a healthy 0.5 to 1%. There must be a inflow of immigration so that the population remains young and there's more people working to pay taxes to support the older people. And I think in Japan, sooner or later, one worker paying tax will be supporting two retirees in the not too distant future. And what happens to a country? It's going to be a demographic time bomb. Lastly, the rule of law must be strong. That is very important, of course. You don't want to buy a home, and I've heard horror stories of people buying homes in Asia, whether it be India or Philippines, where they buy a home and the title can actually be sold twice. Can you believe it? So the lawyer may not be that honest. I'm not saying all lawyers are dishonest, but there are crooked ones. So the rule of law must be strong. If you get into trouble, tenants do not pay, can you collect your rent? Can you evict them? Will you lose your home? Will it be expropriated in the worst case scenario? They end up with nothing. And of course, there are other rules, like does a country have earthquake? And if it has earthquake, what do? Does the insurance cover it? So these are the question marks. So if the insurance cover it, right, in the case of Japan, I would rather buy a house rather than a block of flats or apartment, because if there is damage after an earthquake, even if the building is there, it could be damaged beyond habitation. So what happens? You have to top up money, or if there's fire damage. So what happens? You have to claim on insurance to pay for the damage. Now the insurance may not even cover that total amount. What if it fails to cover? And what if some people in the block are uninsured? Then what happens? Next, once you zoom in on a country, choose a city. The city's population must be growing. If you are in US, there is a lot of cities that are shrinking. Oh my God, it's scary, right? There's crime, there's, like Detroit, Memphis, for example. Population has shrunken and there are no jobs, abandoned buildings, crime, and there's a lot of drug problems. So population must be growing in a minimum. Even in the UK, I prefer to buy in major cities: London, Manchester, Birmingham, Nottingham, Leeds, Derby. I do not want to buy in northern cities where there are no jobs. Population is not growing, or small towns. I know the yield might be 8 to 10%, and you can get a property for as cheap as £80,000 or £100,000, borrow on furnace, one single employer, then there's nothing else. Population doesn't grow, and if the employer shifts out, oh my God, there's going to be a ghost town. So population must at least be growing consistently. There must be more than one industry supporting this city. Salary must be growing, of course. I've seen cities in UK where a lot of people are unemployed. Population are kind of growing, but a lot of people are on welfare. I prefer to have cities where there are a lot of MNCs. So I Google for it, and well, if there's no MNCs, too bad. If it's all government sectors, salaries ain't growing much. I prefer to have a city with international airports or seaports. It's good for attracting MNCs. I recently had an issue where I ordered some supplements from the US, and the factory or the warehouse that shipped this was in a city that is pretty far from Chicago. It's a small town. So from there I could track in DHL. It took 3 days or 4 days for the goods to be loaded on a truck, to drive to Chicago, where there is an airport. I think it's called O'Hare Airport, where they fly over here. So by the time it reaches me, right, 4 days were lost on the road. And then I think they did some detour in Europe. The flight took about 2 days, another 2 days, and on the 6th day it reached Singapore. Stuck on the warehouse. On the 7th day or 8th day it reached me. So think about it. a city that doesn't have an international airport, usually it's harder to attract an MNC or multinational corp to locate there. Imagine there is a business trip and you're out there, your clients fly to that city to look for you. You have to reach that city and the international airport from Singapore to Chicago. And in Chicago, you still have to take another flight. It's not an easy flight, right? A domestic flight to that city. Or worse still, that city doesn't have an airport. You have to take a car to the city. Or in Malaysia, you fly to Kuala Lumpur, that's the capital of Malaysia, and then you drive up to a small town nearby, where it could be a 3-4 hour drive. It is quite difficult, you know. So choose a city that I feel that can attract the MNCs with good infrastructure, especially transport linkage. Next, step 3, choosing an area, preferably near tenants. You need to know who's your target market. If you're buying retail, there are lots of residential developments nearby. If it's offices, lots of other offices nearby in the city that fulfills the earlier criteria, right? Retail is the opposite of residential. If you open a shop, you want lots of apartment blocks, high-rise blocks, so that there's a lot of density and people have no choice but to come down and buy groceries from you, food takeaways, but no clothing shops. Yeah, offices, it's good to have lots of offices nearby, like in a business park in a city that's growing with MNCs, because if you visit that business park, usually investments, business people, when they do a business trip there, you visit one office and then you go across to the other office and you can do a lot of things quickly. Industrial is the same as offices. You need a lot of ancillary services. Don't be in the middle of and nowhere. Residential, near universities, hospitals, business parks, good primary and secondary schools. This is very important. Recently, I've thought about, for UK, I decide to buy near universities because I think overseas students as tenants, there are less issues with the rental reform bill rather than the private sector tenants, because the reform bill may make it harder to evict tenants in future and harder to increase rents. Next, I would prefer hospitals because they hardly lose their jobs. And then finally, in fact, I like good primary and secondary schools because the families live there for many, many years. Number 6, crime rates must be the same or falling. If you see an area where the crime is rising, trust me, delinquency is rising. Delinquency is rising means your rent arrears will increase. Capital prices will not increase, it will start to drop. 7, you choose a grade B area, not grade A because its prices are too high and the rent is too low. Rental yields are too low. Grade B is just nice. Grade C, very tough. High rental yields, capital gains don't go up, high crime area. So B is right in the middle. Step 4, choosing a house. You choose a house so that you can do B4R strategy or the BRR strategy. Number 2, semi-detached. Appreciate faster than terraces. To me, I like semi-detached the best for UK. They can range from between 200 to 300,000 pounds in big cities like Manchester and Birmingham. Their yields are still good. You can still get about 7% or 6% gross and about 4 to 5% net. Detached houses appreciate the fastest. In fact, semi-detached appreciate by about 7% per year. Detached will be 8 to 9%. But the yields often are very low. The gross yield can be as low as 5%. And the net will be about 4 or 3. Often it's negative cash flow to neutral at today's interest rates. If you buy a terrace, the capital appreciation is the lowest among the landed houses. It could be between 5 to 6%. That's because terraces have no redevelopment potential. They're all sliced up, very long, elongated. The garden is very narrow. You can only extend at the back. So terraces are not the best. Lighting is bad because the source of light is from both sides. There's no windows in between on the sides. So the yields can be higher. It's like 8% to 7% gross. But capital gains is what makes you rich. It's not so much rental. Rental sustains you. So to me, I prefer semi-detached and detached, especially semi-detached with lots of land on the side so they can potentially extend on the side and at the back. Better still if you can, the house sits on the edge of a land, and you potentially could cut the land into two and build another house in future. Now, if you can't, you can only afford an apartment, which may be the case if you're in London or in Singapore, then don't buy new builds. Generally, new builds are about 20 to 30% premium. So, unless the new builds are priced the same as an existing, I'll rather buy an existing apartment. If it's about 200,000 in Singapore's case, it could be $200,000 to $300,000 cheaper. You could use that money, buy an old apartment, and renovate it so that it looks new again. And also, older apartments can have a second exit strategy, which is a collective sale in Singapore. So there you go. Number 5, finally, you make an offer. Find out how much you can borrow before making an offer. Put in an offer below asking price, stating why. There's a saying, if your first offer is accepted, it's really too high. So you put in an offer below asking price, stating that the place needs a lot of refurbishment, itemize the repair bills, so that the seller knows that you have already thought through this whole process. Do not piss off the seller, because if you make a ridiculous offer, then there won't be a counter offer. If your price is nearly what the seller wants to do, there will be a negotiation, and finally you come to an agreed price. You have to appoint a lawyer, preferably even before the price is agreed, because you know that a deal is likely to be struck. Work with an agent to push the deal to completion. Appoint an agent finally to rent out your house. So Titanium Synergy actually offers you that full suite to mentor you to build a portfolio for you in UK. We help you to search for houses that fulfill all our criteria and whatever we teach. Strong capital gains, very good tenant profile. We negotiate on your behalf. We view the area. We make videos of it. We clinch the deal. We recommend a mortgage for you. And we steer you through the whole thing. At the end of the day, when the deal is completed, we do refurbishment for you. And finally, we find a tenant for you and we guide you. And that's mentoring. We hold your hand throughout the whole offer, the process. So if you want to find out more, click on the link and let us know. And also, if you enjoy this video, help us by smashing the like and subscribe button. We are hoping to hit that 500 subscribers, so that is a huge milestone for us, and it really helps us along our way. We are making money for our clients, and we hope to forge a win-win situation with you as well. So invest with knowledge, and I'll see you there. Now, if you have a keen interest in our property value investing course, please visit the link to our course website below. There, you will find detailed information about our course modules and have the opportunity to enroll. By joining our course, you gain access to our exclusive course chat group where I will personally address your inquiries and provide guidance. Additionally, we will be organizing periodic webinars to further assist you along your learning journey. Rest assured, we are committed to supporting you to the best of our abilities. Titanium Synergy is a joint venture between Josh and myself. Josh, who is based in the UK, specializes in assisting individuals in finding properties within the UK market. He offers mentorship and guidance to help you build a robust property portfolio. We would love to have you join us on this journey. If you enjoy our videos and find them useful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media for regular updates.